Allen Company, 47 years young and a proud sponsor, wishes OOIDA all the best as you celebrate 50 years.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Scott Thompson.
The Guilty by Association Truck Show is just a week away, and the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association is gearing up. We'll catch up with Mike Shermley of OOIDA's marketing department to find out what the association has planned for GBATS. Then we touch base with Brian Martin of Chrome Shop Mafia to find out what attendees can expect and what's different about registration this year. After that, we take a look at two big stories that dropped on the regulatory front this week with Jay Grimes of OOIDA's Washington, D.C. office. First, with regard to truck parking, $80 million in additional grant money is now available for states that want to take action. Also, FMCSA is taking a look at the often frustrating DataQ process, but if improvements are in the cards, it'll require some feedback from truckers. And then finally, we've got Georgia on our minds. Keith Goebel, state legislative editor at Landline Magazine, stops by to talk about yet another fuel tax holiday in the Peach State and a new legislative panel tasked with fixing a problem that just doesn't exist. All of that coming up on today's show. But first, the news with Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Scott. An appeals process is being proposed for the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration's DataQs system. DataQs is the online system for carriers and drivers to request and track a review of crash or inspection data that the requester believes is incomplete or incorrect. In a notice that published in the Federal Register today, FMCSA proposed creating an opportunity to appeal a state agency's decision. Jay Grimes is OOIDA's Director of Federal Affairs. He said as it stands right now, the way DataQ is structured is not fair to drivers submitting requests.
Basically, right now, FMCSA has this request for data review or DataQ to allow stakeholders to request a review of FMCSA-issued data, violations, inspection reports. And a lot of the times, these violations are inaccurate, incomplete, unfair. So it's basically an appeals process. But you have to kind of go through a whole rigmarole and red tape to kind of get these, hopefully, eventually, overturned so it's not on your safety record. And the main problem that we hear is that the process is not objective. The review determination is made by the same person or agency who issued the initial violation, which creates an inherent conflict of interest. So a lot of times the same law enforcement officer that issued the initial violation is the same one reviewing your DataQ. So that makes it very difficult to overturn. And this becomes problematic because violations remain on the driver or carrier safety record and can negatively impact their ability to get loads, can increase their insurance costs, a whole host of operational and economic concerns.
The public will have 60 days to comment. 5 more co-sponsors have been added to the House Truck Parking Safety Improvement Act. They are Republican Representatives Michael Guest of Mississippi, Aaron Houchin of Indiana, and John Joyce of Pennsylvania, along with Democratic Representative Susie Lee of Nevada and Chris Pappas of New Hampshire. These 5 join 30 other co-sponsors for the bill. The Truck Parking Safety Improvement Act would allocate $755 million over 3 years to the construction of parking spots. According to the bill text, any project funded by the bill cannot include paid parking. All parking under the bill must be publicly accessible and free of charge. A recall has been issued for certain 2023-2024 Kenworth T280, T380, and T480, and Peterbilt 536, 537, and 548 trucks. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, the truck's remote Stage 2 fuel filter hoses may have been damaged during production, allowing them to leak or disconnect. A disconnected hose could result in an engine stall, increasing the risk of a crash. Also, a fuel leak in the presence of an ignition source could increase the risk of fire. Dealers will replace both hoses free of charge. Owner notification letters are expected to be mailed at the beginning of November. If you've been a victim of cargo theft in the Philadelphia area between October 1st of 2022 and August 31st of this year, police want to hear from you. The Philadelphia Police Department's Northeast Detective Division is investigating a cargo theft ring that has been active in the Philadelphia area at KLS, Quaker Valley Foods, and Almo Distributors. If anyone has been a cargo theft victim at any of these businesses, please email your contact information to police.oper_nedd@phila.gov. $320,000 worth of cocaine was found recently inside a truck in Detroit. A local news channel reports that the Sterling Heights Police Department found 4 kilos of cocaine inside a semi-truck and trailer last week. Officials said 2 males were in the truck. When they began to investigate further, the driver admitted they had no reason to be at the location other than sleeping in the truck for the evening. Police said the 2 men began acting nervous. A consent search was obtained and a canine unit was utilized to search the truck and trailer, where they found cardboard boxes that contained empty mailboxes, as well as the 4 kilos of cocaine. Officials said the 2 men were arrested without incident and taken to the Macomb County Jail. In an effort to prevent motor vehicle crashes and eliminate roadway fatalities in Maryland, $11.5 million in federal highway safety grants has been announced. Governor Wes Moore announced that the funding would go to organizations across the state. Funds awarded this year may be used for traffic safety initiatives and are allocated based on crash data for each county or organization. The highway safety funds announced will be used for initiatives to increase seatbelt usage, to prevent impaired, aggressive, and distracted driving, to increase the efficiency and capability of the state's traffic data systems, and more. A series of public forums across Delaware has been announced in an effort to decrease road fatalities in the state. WBOC reports that the Delaware Office of Highway Safety will hold 3 forums in each of Delaware's 3 counties in the coming weeks. Topics of discussion will include planning safety initiatives, reducing crashes and preventing deaths on the road. Impaired driving, pedestrian safety, and speeding will also be addressed. The number of traffic fatalities in the state reached a new record in 2022. $4.8 million has been awarded to build electric vehicle charging stations at 8 Love's locations in Pennsylvania and Colorado. The federal funding was awarded to Love's and Trillium Energy Solutions, which designs, builds, and maintains clean fuel stations for fleet operators. The investments were made through the Federal Highway Administration's National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Formula Program. $2.6 million of the funding will go to 4 existing locations in Pennsylvania, and $2.2 million will go to 4 stations in Colorado. And finally, 80,000 pounds of raw chicken ended up all over the road in Atlanta. The Sandy Springs Police Department confirmed to Fox 5 Atlanta that the truck was carrying the frozen rotisserie chickens when it crashed in a 7-car pileup on I-285 at around 6 o'clock on Wednesday evening. No word on injuries in the crash. The scene took about 2 hours to clean up. That's Landline Now News for today. I'm Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Ashley. A reminder, if a carrier, shipper, receiver, or broker coerces you to violate any regulations, you don't have to sit and take it. In fact, you're encouraged to file a complaint with the National Consumer Complaint Database. You've got 2 ways to do that, either by calling 1-888-DOT-SAFT or by going online and doing it there. If you'd like to join OOIDA, you can do it at a discount right now. Just call the membership department during business hours at 816-229-5791. You can join the association or renew your membership for 2 years for $50. That's a $40 discount. Coming up next, a preview of GBATS. Stick around. There's more Landline Now right around the corner.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Firestone tires are for more of everything. More miles for every tire dollar, and more confidence in your fleet. At Firestone, we help fleets save with dependable value. Find your local Firestone dealer today at firestonetire.com/dealer.
Ready to make more money? Use a better load board. For a limited time, get 50% off Truckstop Load Board Pro. Just go to truckstop.com/go and enter promo code READY2023 when you purchase Load Board Pro.
Landline Now, welcome back. The Guilty by Association Truck Show is right around the corner. To discuss the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association's involvement in the show, Mike Shermley joins me. He is the marketing manager at OOIDA. Mike, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Now, GBATS, right around the corner. For those who don't know, what is GBATS?
GBATS is, like you said, the Guilty by Association Truck Show that Brian Martin and Four State Trucks has been putting on now for a number of years. I think this is number 14 or 13, something like that. And it is not a typical truck show in the sense of a convention center and lots of vendors and things like that. In fact, there's hardly any vendors at this show. It's primarily a lot of truckers getting together, having a great weekend, talking to each other, looking at their trucks. There's some fabulous, fabulous trucks on display. Tons of trucks that are being parked there. I think he's somewhere in the neighborhood of between 800 and 1,000 trucks that he'll have parked, plus all the ones that come in just for the day or for the weekend. It's a really great weekend of just walking around and talking to people and exchanging stories. And they have obviously the big convoy at the end of it, which is for Special Olympics. And there's just a lot going on, a lot of entertainment, a lot of food. And it's a great time.
And as someone who's, I know, been to the Mid-America Trucking Show where there is a lot of vendors, what's kind of the atmosphere like here where there isn't so much the vendors, but it's more about the trucks and the drivers and they can really talk and get to know one another?
Yes, it's really kind of it's Brian's way, obviously. Brian and Bryce, they it's their way of showing appreciation for all of their customers and the people who have supported their business. But it's really grown into something very special. It's grown into something far beyond that, where it is a chance for truck drivers just to get together for a great weekend. It's a very laid-back weekend. A lot of guys just sit in their lawn chairs and, get up every once in a while and take a walk and go watch some of the activities that are going around and get a chance to talk with people. They take tours of the facilities. Brian usually has a tour of his operation there for people. And we, of course, have been a part of it for many years. We've gone to it for many years, but the last 3 times we have been the major sponsor. And we sort of have piggybacked on this year because of it being our 50th anniversary to really make a special party out of it for OOIDA, for OOIDA members, and for all truck drivers that are there.
Yeah, talk to me a little bit more about that. It is an exciting year for OOIDA with it being the 50th anniversary. What are some of the things that we'll be doing there? Well,
there's a couple of things that are going on that are a little bit unusual. We are actually having our semi-annual board meeting down in Joplin at the One Hotel. So all of our board members will be at the GBATS event. So it's a great time for people who are interested in the association, interested in how it works and what they can do to get involved, to talk to board members who are all working truck drivers, and come find out about how to get involved with OOIDA and find out about our issues and find out the priorities that the board sets in terms of our legislative and regulatory efforts in Washington. And I mean, it's always an important time to join the association. Why more so now maybe than ever that is it a good time to join the association? Oh, I think it's always been a good time. I mean, there's always pressures on the trucking industry. There's so many issues that are, up in the air and that are in front of Congress to consider. A lot of pressures from outside groups that are not in favor of trucking. I mean, that are actually quite contrary to the way our people make their money and make their livelihood. So it really is important for truck drivers to join the association, support our efforts, because we have to do a lot of pushback in Washington, D.C. right now. And there is a special on membership. Yes, until the end of the year, we've been running this 2 for $50 special. So a 2-year membership for $50. That's a savings of $40 on the regular price of a membership for 2 years. And we will run that until the end of the year. We've been running it since the beginning of January. But you're running out of time. So if you haven't taken advantage of this offer, by all means, either call the office and join over the phone or online. But certainly at GBATS, we'll be there to take memberships as well.
And can you talk about some of the other events that are happening during the event?
Well, it's quite a fun event. I mean, Brian has just tried to get bigger and better every year, and so a lot of the things he has in terms of monster truck jam sessions and all sorts of activities at night, to entertain people. We've got a fabulous barbecue unit coming in this year that we happen to come across, and Brian and I and the executives here, we're all kind of co-sponsoring this guy. He's got an old cattle hauler that he has converted into a barbecue unit. And he's going to be doing demonstrations as well as providing the food. We will have tickets for OIDA members if they want to come by our tent and truck for getting barbecue on Thursday night. It's a really cool event. The one thing that's missing for the people who go there quite often, the tire burnouts will not be there this year, unfortunately. Apparently, Brian's insurance company saw the videos of those and said, "Oh, hell no."
So those are not.
Those are
the
not
schedule.
going on this year for some reason.
You mentioned the cattle hauler, which is a unique. I look forward to seeing that. Talk to me about some of the unique trucks and people who come.
It's kind of a mixed match. I mean, you have these guys with these fabulous, fabulous trucks that they've spent a lot of money in putting all sorts of bells and whistles on. And these are not the guys who do the normal circuit of competition trucks. These are guys who just have great trucks and like to show them. And there is a voting that goes on at GBATS, but it is the truckers themselves that vote the winner of what they consider to be the best truck or the most unusual truck there. But these guys have spent just enormous amounts of money and time and effort just really shining up these trucks and displaying them. And then, of course, you have everybody else that's coming in and registering. I mean, that's kind of a percentage of it, the really neat, shiny trucks. But, most of the people they're coming in their own vehicles, their own working vehicles. And like I said, they just park for the weekend and have a great time. And then on Saturday night, they all pull out around 6 o'clock to do the big convoy into a central area of Joplin, where we have the stage set up for the concert and all sorts of food truck vendors there, and that's really the highlight of the whole thing is the convoy and the concert.
And who will be playing in these concerts?
Well, a Saturday night concert is what they're calling the Roots and Boots concert. It's Sammy Kershaw and Colin Ray and our good friend Aaron Tippin are going to be the headliners there. Aaron, of course, is a life member of OOIDA, and I'm sure you'll see him walking around because he loves to see trucks. So I'm sure he'll be walking around the grounds most of the weekend checking out things. What
do you look forward to most about the show?
Oh, I mean, I always like seeing members. I mean, at any show, this one or Matt's or any other show. I love talking to members. I love listening to members about what they're doing, what they like. We have all sorts of questions. We'd love to ask members if they'd come by the tent or the truck. We've just got some research that we're doing, trying to make our jobs better. I just love hearing their stories. It's a great time. It's kind of a reunion of sorts. I mean, we see a lot of people that we don't normally see throughout the year, and until we get to this kind of an event.
You mentioned about it being a reunion. Talk to me about that. How a lot of these drivers come and this is probably their vacation. What they look forward to.
Yeah, it's a nice break for them for the weekend. It's only a 3-day event, and they get off the road for a while and they just put their feet up, and it's just a really, really great time to be part of the trucking community.
And you mentioned this briefly. We want to hear from our members and from drivers. We do a lot of work in this building, but obviously we need to hear from the people who are out on the road. Talk to me a little bit more about that.
Well, there's a couple of different things that I'm looking for. Obviously, we like to get some feedback on the issues that we're fighting against or fighting for. Obviously we've got the board members there. We've got Todd Spencer and Louis Pugh are going to be there to talk about those sort of things. I am interested in things that guys are listening to, what radio stations they're listening to, what podcasts are they listening to, what social media are they on. I mean, I like having those kind of conversations with people because I want to know how to reach people. So we have some people there that are going to be asking questions like that around the grounds, just trying to get some feedback from people. Also, we need feedback as, what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, what would they like to see us do? We put together all these programs for members in terms of discounts with vendors and things like that. But, we'd like to get some feedback from members, like what they would like to see us have.
Mm-hmm. And OOIDA, there's a lot of staff members going.
Yes. We've got people from some of the various departments here. So we'll have probably about 20, 25 people working around the grounds. We'll all have our special OOIDA shirts on, so you'll be able to recognize us. But we'll be working side by side, all the 4-state people, in terms of checking badges and working the kids zone and doing all sorts of weird and wonderful things.
All right. And I hear it's supposed to be good numbers. It was good numbers back in 2021 when they were able to be back in action.
Oh, yeah. It was actually surprisingly huge right after COVID. We thought it was just going to be kind of drips and drabs. But in fact, I think everybody was so excited to get out and get back there. It is really an event not to be missed.
Mm-hmm. And is it looking good this year?
I think so. You're always dependent. Weather in the end of September usually is pretty nice. So, it wasn't terribly hot last year. It's a big piece of property. It takes a lot of walking around to see everything there. Brian has continually kind of added on space, over the years, and so to actually walk the entire grounds it's quite a feat.
Wear good shoes.
Yeah.
That's what I've been told.
Yeah.
All right, Mike. Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming in.
Oh, thanks very much.
That was Mike Shermerly, OOIDA's marketing manager, talking about OOIDA's involvement with the Guilty by Association Truck Show. Brian Martin is the general manager of Chrome Shop Mafia, which puts on GBATS. He recently spoke with Mark Reddick about the show and what people can expect.
But to paint a picture for folks, it is a truck show, a big rig truck show, probably, if you haven't been to a GBATS before, probably like you've never seen before. There's action going on all Thursday night, all day Friday, all Friday night, all Saturday night. And there's everything there for a trucker or a truck owner or a truck enthusiast, but there's also stuff for the whole family. It's kind of like a little, you know what it is? It's kind of like a little county fair is a good way to explain it. A county fair with about 800 working class show trucks show up for the fair. That's about what it's like.
This year's show is expected to be bigger and better than ever, according to Martin. One of the biggest changes is where people register.
Now, we'll be parking trucks. You can get registered and get parked all day Wednesday, all day Thursday, and till Friday. You can even show up till noon and get your semi-truck registered and get parked and be in the show. Registration this year is going to be at the Petro. Just pull in Joplin Petro and go all the way to the west, far back into their parking lot. You'll see the blue and white registration tent. But once we get everything parked Thursday, we kind of turn up the festivities. And in years past, we've had bull riding, we've had motocross, we've had diesel drag races. Well, this year, we're having a demo derby, and we're keeping it real simple, hillbilly rules. We'll have an import class, a domestic class. Just about anybody can play. It costs you a $100 donation to Special Olympics to enter your car, and it promises to be a lot of fun. So the demo derby is on Thursday night to kick off the show. Drivers, if you want to put your truck in the competition, you do not have to have a show truck. If you've got a truck you're proud of, run it through the truck wash, come down here. It's not going to cost you a dime to enter it. It's free registration, and come down and spend the weekend with us. I guarantee you're going to have the most fun you've ever had with your truck down here in September.
The event starts Thursday, September 21st and goes through Saturday, September 23rd in Joplin, Missouri. The truck show that happens every other year is held by Chrome Shop Mafia and 4-state trucks in conjunction with Joplin 44 Petro and is sponsored by OOIDA. For more information on GBATS, you can visit chromeshopmafia.com. For Landline Now, I'm Ashley Blackford. Stay tuned for more after this.
Accuracy, weigh your truck on a CAT scale. When you weigh on a CAT scale, you get a no excuses guarantee. You can now save time weighing by using your smartphone. Find out more at weightmytruck.com.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com. Because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Welcome back to the show. It's been a busy week for news on the regulatory front, so we're going to take a run at some of the bigger stories of the week and sprinkle in a bit of analysis. And when we're looking for analysis on regulatory matters, we usually turn to Jay Grimes, OIDA Director of Federal Affairs. And wouldn't you know it, here he is, Studio A. Good to see you, Jay.
Good to be back.
Always good to have you. Let's start with truck parking here. It was a big week for truck parking, starting with the event in South Dakota that OOIDA was a part of. I was there as well. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg there announcing $80 million in new grant money for truck parking projects. We talked about this and reported on it for the show, but let's dive into this a bit more, Jay, starting with where this $80 million will eventually be going.
Yeah, we're hoping that it's going to go toward, actually building more truck parking spaces, increasing capacity and cracking down against this nationwide parking shortage. And we're starting to see the slow wheels of government start to turn after many years worth of effort and advocacy here. And, DOT to their credit, FMCSA to their credit, has prioritized the truck parking issue. We've seen over the last year or two some major grants start moving toward specific truck parking projects. And this is another example of that, $80 million in grants coming that way. It's called high priority grants. It's a 65 increase in funding for truck parking projects over last year, designed to enhance critical efforts to support truck drivers and improve safety. Do have a little skepticism here that one of the goals they want to see here is more real-time dynamic messaging signs, but going to continue to really do due diligence on getting the word out to states and local communities that this money is available. Truck parking is a major priority in just about every state, and we're finally seeing the federal funds coming down the pipe to those state and local DOTs to make long overdue investments in building more spaces.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, we're sort of chipping away at the problem here. We're making progress, and that's something the Transportation Secretary, I actually spoke with him, and he said as well that we're on the right path here, and then it's going to take some time. It's going to take grants like this and money like this to help the process along, but we are seeing similar things being done with grant money in Florida, I think Tennessee, Texas, I think, Louisiana. So similar grant money is being used for truck parking projects. But you did mention something there that I do want to spend some time on, in that the states will have to apply for these grants. They will have to specify that they want to use the money for truck parking. And I think it's important to note for people out there who may be listening that if the states are going to do that, they have to know that this is an issue in these particular areas. And that really comes down to constituents reaching out and letting them know that this is a major problem, right? Can you talk about the outreach that you would like to see maybe on the state level from people reaching out to their legislators and lawmakers and policymakers?
Right. It kind of goes back to the old saying that all politics is local. And even though this is federal funding, it's going out to states and municipalities here through these Department of Transportation grants. So it's really critical that these local lawmakers, these state lawmakers understand the importance of truck parking investment and how it can improve safety, improve efficiency, and really what are the best areas that new truck parking can go in these different states. And really through the past couple of years, we have started to notice and get a lot more feedback from states that maybe weren't paying attention to this as much, and really reaching out to OIDA as a resource to be like, what are you hearing? Where would be the best locations to build new areas? And, it comes after a lot of different studies have been done and really got it to continue to reach those state lawmakers so they can prioritize it. And really, that's been one of the hurdles here in this in this major push for truck parking is that a lot of times the states aren't aware that there are these truck parking grants, and they're also not using the federal transportation money they are getting for truck parking projects. And DOT, I think, has really taken some time over the last couple of years to reach out to these local departments and say and educate them on the need for truck parking. So it's really kind of, I think, starting to move up the ladder in terms of these state and local priorities. But we've got to keep the pressure on. Certainly, we're doing that in Washington, but these projects aren't going to be built, inside the Beltway. We need them throughout the country. So the more we can contact the state and local lawmakers to make sure they're aware of the problems, to really get their mind on solving the truck parking shortage, that's going to be crucial. And you can go on fightingfortruckers.com. You can type in your zip code, and that'll tell you, it'll give you your federal elected officials, but it's also going to have all your state lawmakers as well, which can sometimes be overlooked in kind of the overall political process.
Yeah, this is nice that we're seeing this on the state level, but as we have pointed out time and time again, something that would be nicer is that if we had action in Congress, which is where the Truck Parking Safety Improvement Act comes in, both in the House and the Senate. And, time is short here for this to really push through before we get into election season. So really now is when we need to make the push there.
That's right. And, DOT, we've started to see them, issue some of these grants. And I think around the last 2 years, it's on some of the projects that they've given money to, it's about ballpark $70 million. And the announcement this week going to be $80 million more. But we know that is really just a drop in the bucket for what is needed to really substantively build more parking spaces across the country. And we've introduced legislation, both the House and the Senate, for over $750 million over a 3-year period. And the Truck Parking Safety Improvement Act continues to gain momentum in Congress. Earlier this year, it was passed by the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. And just this week, we've got 5 new congressional co-sponsors in the House. Michael Guest from Mississippi, Aaron Huchin from Indiana, John Joyce from Pennsylvania, Susie Lee from Nevada, and Chris Pappas from New Hampshire. Again, the bipartisan selection there. This is an issue that has always gotten bipartisan support, and it's just, unfortunately, the state of Washington and the state of Congress, it is very difficult to get these funding projects approved, even when there is near unanimous support for them. So we're continuing to work out some of the technicalities that have prevented this bill from getting further action on the House floor and on the Senate floor as well. But as we continue to see these DOT grants, as we continue to see co-sponsors being added, we kind of continue to slowly keep the ball moving.
Absolutely. Let's move on to another issue here, Jay, out of the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, which is seeking feedback on DataQ reviews. This is, of course, the online system for motor carriers, for drivers who are that they can use to request and track a review of crash and inspection data. Basically, if they think if something is wrong or incomplete. Let's start with the basics here, Jay. Why, I guess, is FMCSA putting out this request for comments in the first place?
Yeah, I think they've heard a lot of feedback from drivers and motor carriers that the DataQ system is currently structured is not really fair to the drivers and the motor carriers who are submitting the DataQ request. And this is an issue that we certainly hear a lot about. And basically right now, FMCSA has this request for data review or DataQ to allow stakeholders to request a review of FMCSA-issued data, violations, inspection reports. And a lot of the times, these violations are inaccurate, incomplete, unfair. So it's basically an appeals process. But you have to kind of go through a whole rigmarole and red tape to kind of get these, hopefully, eventually, overturned so it's not on your safety record. And the main problem that we hear is that the process is not objective. The review determination is made by the same person or agency who issued the initial violation, which creates an inherent conflict of interest. So a lot of times the same law enforcement officer that issued the initial violation is the same one reviewing your DataQ. So that makes it very difficult to overturn. And this becomes problematic because violations remain on the driver or carrier safety record and can negatively impact their ability to get loads, can increase their insurance costs, a whole host of operational and economic concerns. So we've kind of pushed back against this for quite a while. We've tried to get legislation off the ground that would create independent review panels in different states, and there are a couple states now that have these in place. I think most notably Arizona has a kind of independent review board that has representatives from the motor carrier industry, law enforcement personnel, and they kind of go through all these DataQ reviews a few times a year and kind of can make some more objective decisions. And we think that's kind of a more common sense and fair way to do things. So we've kind of been pushing for that and FMCSA to kind of look into it. And we've got a notice on this week a notice published this week that might get to some of the problems we've been doing, but
I sense some hesitancy there.
Yeah, I think that's a good word for it, is hesitancy.
Okay.
So the proposal that actually published just today, I think, acknowledges that FMCSA is aware of the shortcomings of the current DataQ review process. They're requesting feedback on how it can be improved, but kind of the initial structure that they've proposed, which is going to be administered entirely by FMCSA, I think doesn't really create as much as objective review process that I know drivers and motor carriers would want to see.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I've certainly heard the stories from people out there who have had to deal with all this. I know you have as well. And, the Business Services Department at OIDA gets these calls all the time and actually helps them with this process. But for this comment period, we always ask people to reach out and relay their experiences with this. Would you have a message for people who see this notice and want to provide feedback? What should they say, I guess?
Yeah, certainly if you've submitted DataQs in the past and haven't had the best experience, I think that's going to be critical for FMCSA to think about. Again, this is going to be a 60-day comment period here, and this is just an initial proposal. And I think FMCSA wants to hear some, constructive criticism on how the appeals process can be improved. So I know we've got some information up on Landline, and we're going to be certainly putting out some more resources as we review the proposal and what could be the best things to discuss in any comments. But glad to see that FMCSA is prioritizing. We know this is something that really needs some improvements.
Absolutely. We will see what happens there. Jay, we have to leave it there, but we'll talk to you again soon.
All right. We'll see you next week.
Our thanks to Jay Grimes of OIDA's Washington, D.C. office for his time and his expertise. You heard him mention the website there, fightingfortruckers.com. If you want to get involved in the fights that they're fighting on the regulatory front, you can check out that website, again, fightingfortruckers.com. We've got to take a quick break here, but don't go anywhere because there's more Landline Now to come.
Control your toll costs and eliminate tolling headaches with Prepass Tolls. Prepass Tolls means toll volume discounts. Just one invoice for all tolls and fewer violations. Call 877-878-5970 or go to prepass.com.
Attention all truckers, Dean Michael, the tax doctor here. I want to talk to you about those dreaded tax problems. I know you want to keep on trucking and not even think about them, but let's face it, they're not going away all on their own. You need professional help. I've been helping truckers put their tax problems in the rearview mirror for years. I can help you too. Call me now for a free consultation at 888-557-4020 or go to mytaxhelpmd.com. It's like I always say, keep your eyes on the road, I'll keep mine on the IRS. 888-557-4020. 520.
It's tested and proven. Burn 2.1% less fuel when you balance all wheel ends with Centromatic. Call 800-523-8473 to get the OOIDA discount.
Landline Now, welcome back. Time now for our state legislative update, and today we've got one state in our sights. Keith Goebel of Landline Magazine has Georgia on his mind today, and he joins us here in Studio A. Keith, good to see you.
Scott, good to see you.
Georgia. The great Ray Charles leading us in there. Throughout the pandemic, Keith, we've talked about this a lot. I talked an awful lot about Georgia and its ongoing fuel tax holiday. I think they were one of the first states to put one in place, and they kept it going for quite a while. The pandemic isn't back, Keith, but the fuel tax holiday is in Georgia. My first question is why?
Taxes are high.
Breaking news.
And you add the component that fuel prices are
also high,
increasing there. So the focus, much like we saw last year. Gosh, what was it? It was March of 2022 into December, I believe. That the governor there, Brian Kemp, regularly extended the fuel tax holiday for both gas and diesel, completely stopped collecting the 31+ gas tax, the state's excise tax on gas, and the 35-cent amount for diesel. They decided to revisit that this year as fuel prices are increasing, and we'll see how long this second round of fuel tax holiday lasts in Georgia, but it's kind of a little bit of a blast from the most recent past there if you're fueling in Georgia.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a 30-day state fuel tax holiday for now, but as you kind of mentioned there, throughout the pandemic, we had these 30-day fuel tax holidays that kept getting extended, and I don't remember how many times it was. It was a lot, though. It went on for a while.
It was. I mean, each time that they did it, it was a 30-day extension, and it went from March until I believe it was December. So that was something that they have established. They've laid the groundwork for in Georgia, so doing it again, much easier this time around, I guess you could say. It is. It is interesting that this is the first state this year to pursue and I say enact. I mean, the legislature's not in session. So when the legislature's not in session in a state, the governor has to take executive action. And this is what he's done, and it's what he did last year to continue with those 30-day tax holidays. So will it end on October 12th, or it goes through October 12th? But will it end at that point, or will they extend it at this time? I think it's fair to say that there's a decent chance that this will last longer than 30 days in Georgia, but we won't know for sure until we get into the month of October.
Now, we can't mention fuel tax holidays without mentioning IFTA, the International Fuel Tax Agreement. It doesn't kick in if you're working and traveling in Georgia and only Georgia. But things do get complicated if you're crossing state lines. I know you outlined this in your piece on landline.media, and it's worth going over all of this because it does get a little confusing when you do take IFTA into account. Walk us through what this looks like with regard to IFTA, Keith.
Okay, and I will try to do it without being redundant or leaving anything out, but
right,
yes,
we'll hit the buzzer if you do any of those.
The task here, for motor carriers, they're able to purchase this qualifying fuel tax free, and they can travel on non-taxable miles there in the state. Important to note that IFTA returns still they are required to be filed for the quarters that include this tax free period, and if it's extended, of course, that will be extended as well. The state is asking motor carriers to ensure that all fuel purchases that they're reported on IFTA returns so they can accurately reflect the miles per gallon for the suspension period, and that the reporting should include both tax-free and tax-paid purchases. On the state's, I say the IFTA website, but the Motor Fuel Unit, their website, they do include the steps that you got to You need to make sure that you follow in reporting. During the suspension period, I've included those 4 steps as well in my coverage. But a lot of good information. Fortunately, we've seen states last year, most recently, that have gone to a fuel tax holiday to some extent, and how it affects IFTA and communicating that information. You could say we're lacking in some instances. In Georgia, doing a great job. Again, like I said, they did it for many months last year, and providing some very helpful information to truck drivers.
We didn't hit the buzzer once. Good job, Keith. And as you mentioned there, landline.media, you've got a write-up there if people want more information and kind of help walking through this process, because it does get confusing. They can check it out there. We've cleared that up now. Let's venture into another issue. Still in Georgia, though, a legislative panel there is taking a look at the so-called driver shortage, and I use air quotes there every time I say it. They just met for the first time. Let's start with some background here and why they're doing this and what the goal is.
Well, for one, Georgia, as in many other states, lawmakers hear from those trucking associations there in the state about their concerns about having enough drivers and labeling it as a truck driver shortage, enough to the point where the discussions during the past legislative session in Georgia that lawmakers approved a study to look into the issue. And what they came up with was a 5-member group that was going to have multiple meetings this fall and try to address concerns about the trucking industry as a whole, but with the label of trying to address a truck driver shortage. Their task is to take in a lot of input from those in the industry and come up with a possible solution or ways to address concerns about where truck driving is going to be in Georgia in the decades to come.
Yeah, the interesting thing about this, as I read your story here, is that they're going at this from this perspective that there's a problem with a shortage, quote unquote, again. But they're also, throughout the process, going to be looking at some problems or issues that are actual problems and issues in the industry, problems that actually push people out of the industry. So we could end up hearing a lot of things that do relate to things like retention over the course of this panel. And I know you kind of get into that a little bit as well in your article. So it's interesting, and we'll see what they come up with. But there could be some constructive conversations that take place.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to watch the hearing, and it was, what was it? Gosh, it was like almost 2 hours. And there was a lot of good information that was provided to the panel. Very thorough. You had folks representing trucking operations. You had the state's insurance and safety fire commissioner, who provided some very insightful content for the committee. And, of course, you had the state's trucking association that addressed, one of the factors in not having enough drivers. There was a lot of good information, very useful again for that panel. And as they move forward and start crafting some recommendations for the full state legislature to consider next year, it'll be interesting to see exactly where they land on some of these issues.
Yeah, do we know, and you maybe mentioned this, but do we know how long and how many meetings they're planning to have?
The expectation at this time is to possibly have one more meeting before they get into November. Okay. And November is whenever they're expecting to finalize their recommendations that they can then submit again for the upcoming regular session.
We know you're going to stay on top of this and keep us updated as you always do. And as always, we appreciate it and appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And we appreciate all of you for listening to Landline Now. We're out of time today, but another show is never far behind, so we hope to see you then. Thanks again, and thanks for all you do to keep America moving. Until next time, take care and drive safe.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
I'm a dad.
A son.
A husband.
Wife.
I'm a writer.
Photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars. Fishing.
My kids.
Chrome. And I am
a professional truck driver.
And together we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us!
Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit OOIDA.com.